commits, the first commit and also the second commit of this file. And let's see if I can just make it a little bit bigger. The nice part about gvindiff is it is both VI, which means all the keyboard commands of VI are recognized, but at the same time it's also GUI, which means you can drag the bar between these two windows and control the size of each pane, which makes it easier for you to kind of control how much information you want to display at any particular time. Okay, so I will just kind of briefly explain this particular version, and you guys can do the same trick to all the other versions, so you can actually look at the differences between all of those. So the differences between these two is the first one does not have, this is the initial version, the one on your left-hand side is essentially socket3.c. That's my solution to socket 3. And then on the right-hand side, on your right-hand side, that would be the work in progress for socket 4. Okay? So the first thing I did was I created a client structure, and you will see later on this structure will get bigger and bigger as I move more stuff into the structure and start to use it in place of a whole bunch of global variables and global arrays to keep track of all the states related to a specific client. Because if you look at socket3.c, the solution of socket 3, it does not use structures at all. So I have all the state information kind of sprinkled everywhere, which is not good programming practice. So that's one change. I'm creating the structure here, and you can also see that I'm also starting to use that structure. Before, I use clients FDS, which is an array by itself, indexed by I, to basically look at the socket file descriptor of client I. I changed the structure, or I changed the reference to clients, which is the array of client structures, bracket I dot socket FD. In other words, I'm making tiny little changes. Okay, this is not a big change. For the most part, it is nothing more than just syntactically replace all of this stuff with all of this stuff. Okay. You can see it's basically identical changes here. This is the fix of the problem that I mentioned on Monday. So that's just easy fix there. Let's see. And all of these changes, all the additional changes are basically just changing the use of client FDS, which is an array to keep track of the socket file descriptors of each client, to use the one single member of the client structure at this point. Is that okay so far? Okay. The rest of the program, the structure of the program has not changed at all at this point. It is really all just changing from using that one single array to an array of structures. So as you can probably imagine, this program or this version or this commit did not require a whole lot of debugging, because for the most part it's just syntactically changing from this to that. There's no structural change as far as the control is concerned. But I did test it anyway. Okay, before I commit anything, I tested to make sure that this version still behaves exactly the same as what socket 3 should behave, to make sure that I do not introduce any error in the process of the conversion. Okay. And so now we can actually move ahead here. I'm not sure whether you guys want to do this a little bit more, or do you want to just kind of move on to the final solution? Skip all the intermediate steps, get right to this final solution.
I want a final solution.
Because if you guys have your own solution working, this may not be very beneficial. But I think the tools is very useful. I mean, even though the approach is not very useful. So here we have, I'm moving one more thing. I'm moving the timeout counter from its own array also into the structure. So I do basically the same thing, throughout the program. Wherever I referred to timeout counter, I now change it to refer to the member read timeout of the client structure. So basically, Again, minor changes, just, changing the allocation, point to someplace else, changing all the references to this array, timeout counter, to the client's array that refer to a different memory. Okay, so that's a easy change, but I did, test everything after this change. After this, right before this commit, I made sure that I did not introduce any problems. So you can basically see, how we can just, step through the repository in terms of time and find out, how each version is different from the previous one. Yep.
How do we set it so that we don't have to change the font size in GVim every time?
You can go to tilde/.vimrc and run and specify the command to change the font over there.
Do you know what that command is?
If you say set all, it will tell you everything, all the things that are settable. And I think the font is one of those things. I cannot remember which one. Can anyone spot something that looks like a...
Is it 12 at preview line? Preview line?
Preview line?
Preview.
It's not. No, I don't think it's that one. It will stand out like just like that because you will see the name of the font as well as the size. It's not the encoding. It's probably here somewhere. Yep.
GUI font.
GUI font, that's it.
At the very top, -space
Yeah.
12.
Yeah, so basically you have to create that entry of set GUI font equals -space backslash space 12 in the file called tilde/.vimrc. So I can probably do that here. Why not? Okay. So right here, this one has a little bit more of a structural change because if you look through this code, it's not responding to the mouse command, and now it's splitting the two screens. Interesting. It's not. Oh, I see. There's not enough changes. So in this case, I changed the function to also pass the number of clients to the subroutine. So I'm starting to make structural changes so I can pass additional information into the other subroutines. Like if you look into main now includes a new option called --client to specify the client number. Now this is an important change because what I did was I changed the program so it does not, so the client do not use standard in and standard out anymore, and instead each client, which is still started separately, will now use the pipes. It will use C1 in, C1 out, C2 in, C2 out, C3 in, and C3 out, depending on the client number that you have to specify on the command line. Okay, do you guys see what I'm changing in this code? Okay, let me show you the change to the client portion. Maybe not this version, maybe the next one. But the next one will no longer use standard